MattRayVolQuest.com. Big time recruiting weekend for Tennessee football. It's going to be a big one as well for the orange and white game. But first, let's look back. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe even a little bit of Monday here to start the week. Let's start with a big man, 4-star interior offensive lineman. First time visiting to campus. Sounds like it went really, really well. And Tommy Tofi from Sacramento, California, making his way out here to East Tennessee.
Yeah, massive is probably the proper term for Tommy Tofi. Measured
6'7", 350.
Yeah, and he measured in right at about 6'6" and a half, 345. So that bio is accurate. He's a guy that moves really well, pretty versatile guy, could play inside or outside in Tennessee's offense. He carries his weight really, really well, but you can tell, if you go over to social media and look at his photos, his dad's a big guy. His dad's as big as he is in terms of just, length and carrying it height. So, he's a pretty natural guy, moves pretty freely with everything that he does. And Tennessee's been recruiting him for some time, dating back to January. Even before then, obviously, but Tennessee was out on the recruiting trail in Sacramento, checking on Tommy Tofi during the contact period when they were able to get out on the road. And, I just think that he's a guy that needed to get out here and see campus, and he saw it this weekend, and he was pretty clear. Tennessee really exceeded expectations. They blew him away. He was really impressed with the takeaways from Glenn Ellerby and Josh Heupel on the practice field, in the film room, in the meeting rooms, and then in the one-on-one meetings that he had with those guys. Tennessee is one of the schools in line to get an official visit from him the weekend of June 13th. And, to me, Eric, Tennessee's very solidified in this recruitment now. It's going to be tough to pull a big guy from the West Coast like that, but the Vols are one of those teams now that I think is a serious player, because in talking to Tommy Tofi, you can see how genuine he is about the brotherhood and the culture. Those things line up at Tennessee. I think he's kind of known. He knows some, guys that have been in around the program and, talked to guys before getting here, but the football fit now lines up at Tennessee. So he's got some real intrigue in the Vols. He'll see Cal, he'll see Utah, he'll see Ohio State, and potentially some others out of his top 8 schools, along the way. But Tennessee's very much in this after the weekend.
Yep, sounds like Tennessee certainly played their way into this one for sure. Tommy Tofi, 4-star interior offensive lineman, a top 155 player in the country. Let's go to Oakland High School, a guy that Tennessee's been after for quite some time, a safety. Craig Tutt, 4-star. He's been on campus several times. He was back on campus this past weekend. How did Tennessee fare with the in-state native?
Yeah, it was important for Tennessee to get Craig Tutt back to campus. He's been here enough to know the lay of the land. He's been around the staff some, but to have that more one-on-one setting was important to him. He was one of the last guys to leave yesterday afternoon as things were wrapping up. He was in, with Tim Banks, Willie Martinez, Josh Heupel, just good conversation. He told me that the family was really enjoying the visit. They had a good time. He really enjoyed the visit. He got to see a lot out on the practice field. Feels like Tennessee's continuing to turn the heat up there more with Michigan and Ole Miss very much involved. But Craig Tutt's not been on the road a ton. Austin and I talked about this yesterday when we were breaking things down. He's a guy that we've talked about a lot, but he's just not been on the road a ton to see any schools really. So, for Tennessee to get back out here, I think this is the 4th time now ahead of what, will be a very important official visit in June that's now scheduled. He scheduled that over yesterday for June 20th. I think Tennessee continues to move the needle in the right direction, but Ole Miss and Michigan are also turning the heat up. So that's a recruitment from an in-state standpoint that's going to be very interesting moving forward.
Yep, Craig Tutt obviously high on the priority board, has been for a while. Let's go to Jackson, Mississippi, where this next prospect resides, 4-star. On-3's really high on him. Linebacker TJ White. I think the other services will catch up as the cycle goes along. But, he's, rated as the 61st player in the cycle per on-3. TJ White back on campus.
He's a guy that just everything with TJ White just kind of moves quiet and slow, and that's kind of who he is. He's about his business. He had another really good visit yesterday, though. He was out here in January. Tennessee made a move during that visit. Got him set up for an official visit at that time. Get him back out here again and continuing to work in the right direction there as they're still trying to add linebackers to this class, obviously. But overall for TJ White, it's just been about more learning about the football fit. That's what this weekend was about. He got to see a lot of that on the practice field. He got to spend a lot of time with William Inge on and off the practice field, watching him on the practice field, watching him in the meeting room, and then one-on-one conversations, and then spending the afternoon with him yesterday after practice was important to him and his family as well. Tennessee continues to be right involved in this when North Carolina, Mississippi State, I think Florida State's the fourth team that's getting an official visit in June. So that month of June is going to be very important to him, but Tennessee's very much in this recruitment as well.
Man, I love the way that linebacker room looks right now with the guys on campus, the guys in the last couple of cycles. Can't wait to see what Harmon and Perlotti look like when they officially get on the practice field and they kind of ditch their injuries, some offseason procedures there. So just wanting to add to that group to where a couple years ago, man, it was 3 guys in that room, and now you've got just an abundance of talent. Edward Baker, another offensive lineman, 6'4", about 315 or so from there's that school again, right? St. Francis Academy in Baltimore, man. Tennessee's had a lot of success there. It was Edward Baker that was back on campus this weekend.
Yeah, he has been here a handful of times, was here at least once in the fall, if not twice. But, Tennessee's continued to keep close tabs on him. He'll take an official visit in June as well. And I think coming out of this visit right now, I think Tennessee's put themselves in a position to, land Edward Baker as they continue to work and evaluate these interior offensive line targets. But he's a guy that I think coming out of this visit and talking to him, they move the needle. He's going to take his official visits and he's going to go through a lot, but I don't really know exactly where Tennessee was coming into this weekend. It was clear that they had been in it. They'd been in those top 8 schools, a school that he's consistently visited, consistently talked about. But coming out of this weekend, you could see that a lot of things started to line up for him. So, we'll kind of see where things go for him in June. But Tennessee, I think, really made a nice move with him over the weekend.
Let me ask you this, man. Carson Sneed, Tennessee commit, in-state tight end. He's been in this class for quite some time, but he's come out. He told On 3 last week, "Hey, I'm going to take 6 official visits." Yep. That's not what you ever want to hear. It doesn't mean anything's wrong, but going to be looking around, right? And so Tennessee had another tight end on campus this past weekend, Matt Ludwig. Tell us about Ludwig. Tell us about the tight end recruitment right now. Did Tennessee make a move here? Does Tennessee need to put the full court pressure on, considering Sneed's eyes maybe elsewhere right now?
Yeah, so I think when you look at it, Carson Sneed's visited a number of these schools already that he's talking about taking official visits to. He's been to Ole Miss, he's been to Miami, he's been to North Carolina. He's got an official visit, worked in there for UCLA as well, so he'll see them at some point. And we're talking those are starting soon. He's got a visit coming up April 25th that will start his official visits late, and then one in May, and then a month full in June. So we'll kind of see what he chooses to do. He was also on campus over the weekend, spending time with Alec Ablin, talking through some things and watching the tight end room yet again. So we'll kind of see what he chooses to do in terms of that, where that goes, how many visits he ends up taking. But Tennessee had Moose Ludwig in. He's a guy Alec Ablin went and evaluated out in Montana during the contact period, just checked in on during that time, got his eyes on him, had a chance to talk to him. Tennessee had obviously evaluated him before then, as the film started to wind up. But he's a guy that's caught the attention of programs across the country, even where he's at there in Montana. You just don't hear a ton of guys coming out of Montana. But I think maybe looking at his own 3 profile, and I may be wrong here, Eric, if you got it in front of you, I think Matt Ludwig is, a top 5 tight end in this class.
Yes.
So he's a guy that visited Georgia before coming up to Tennessee, and he will continue to take some visits. Tennessee's expecting him in town on an official visit in May, and I think the Vols are very much in the mix here now after this weekend, a weekend visit that went very well, as he told Austin Price. Would Tennessee take 2 tight ends in this class? Yeah, I think right now, I think they most certainly would. If Ludwig called up and wanted in, I think they would both certainly take both.
Gotcha. Yeah, you never hear a lot of football from Billings, Montana, but boy, there are some great television shows set in Billings, Montana, that and around that area. Hey, last one before I get you out the door. Can't bring you on and ask you about a 5-star that was a headliner for this weekend at the running back position, Savion Hiter, a guy that's been linked with Tennessee for quite some time. Again, he can pick and choose where he wants to sign with, and this one's not. I know. this one will be one of those to where it's going to go all the way to the end, regardless of the decision that he makes beforehand. But back on campus this past weekend, what was kind of the talk with Hiter coming out of the weekend?
Yeah, so we didn't have a chance to catch up with him before he checked out. But by all accounts, folks we've talked to, this is a visit that went well. It was important to get him back down here again. He's seen some of those finalists in the last few weeks or in the last few months here since he's seen Tennessee last, which was in November before getting back to campus this weekend. So he's seen Georgia. He's been to Michigan. He's been back to Ohio State. Now he's been back to Tennessee. Now we'll see what is kind of next for him. But he's, as I told Austin yesterday when we were talking through this, I said, Savion Hiter, I said, for a running back that has all these choices and everything that, you just mentioned, I said, he's never really deviated from his plan from the first time I talked to him. He has stuck to it. Like, I'm going to get on the road as often as I can, and I'm going to see every school that I think I need to see. And I'm going to cut this list down as low as I can cut it. And then I'm going to take official visits and I'm going to make my decision. That's what he's on pace to do right now. So these visits that you're getting in here in the middle, they're just not another trip to hang out. It's a detailed oriented visit for him. So I think for him to be back around Darrell Sims as that relationship continues to grow, have a chance to see what Tennessee's doing with the young backs out on the practice field, especially a guy like Peyton Lewis, who's from Virginia. I think that's important to him. I think, there's a combination of things at play for Savion Hiter, but really I think it's still going to come down to those official visits, and Tennessee's going to get the last touch, and they set themselves up nicely there. Some guys do get a quick trigger and do something earlier, but, right now with Hiter, he's stuck to that plan through and through. So we'll kind of see where things go. But for me, by all accounts, things went well for Savion Hiter this weekend, and we'll see where things go moving forward. But Tennessee continues to be right in the mix of probably the most competitive running back battle in this cycle. And there's several competitive running back battles in this cycle going on right now. That's a position group that's loaded in 2026.
Hey, Matt, out the door, man. I know we don't got much time. It's about 30 seconds or so, and it's early in the week, so this can change. But who are some of the guys you expect, some of the headliners you expect on campus this weekend for the Orange and White game?
Yeah, that's a good question, Eric. I think Tennessee's done a really good job of getting some guys back into town here throughout the spring. So I think you'll see plenty of 2027s in town this weekend. And we'll see who they get back over potentially. They're working to get Braden Rouse in town. That would be big to get him back for the spring game. We'll see what happens there. To me, that would be the headliner. As you're battling, you've got him to campus so many times. Like I think I talked to him one time, 5 times in 5 months. Now, if you can get him back again, it would be very important. So to me, if you get him back, that's the headliner, but we'll kind of see what this week shapes out to be.
Not just saying it because I work with these guys, but nobody does it better. Matt Ray and Austin Price over at VolQuest.com. Matt, as always, buddy, thanks so much. Looking forward to a big week of recruiting on Tennessee's campus.
Absolutely. Thanks, buddy.
That is Matt Ray, VolQuest.com.